Okay, class, in this lesson, we're going to learn to factor special cases, and specifically, we're going to learn to factor special trinomials. So let's go ahead and get started. So here I've got two examples of a perfect square, and what I want you to see is what the final trinomial ends up being. Okay, so if we were to factor this out, we're going to take the first terms, and we're going to get a squared, and then multiplying the outer term, it's going to be ab, and then multiplying the inner term will also be another ab, a times b, and then multiplying the last term, we get b squared. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and combine these two middle terms because these are like terms, and so what we'll get is a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. Okay, so what I essentially did was use the FOIL method to multiply out this perfect square, and let's go ahead and do the same thing with a minus b times a minus b. So we're going to go ahead and multiply the first term, and we get a squared, multiply the outer term, and we're going to get negative ab. We're also going to multiply the inner term and also get negative ab. And then we're going to multiply the last terms. That's going to be b squared, right? Negative times negative is going to be positive. We're going to get b squared. And if we go ahead and add these like terms, what we end up getting is a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. Okay, so take a look at this format. When we have an a squared plus 2ab plus b squared, or an a squared minus 2ab plus b squared, this is going to be an indication that it is a perfect square. Okay, perfect square meaning a plus b squared or a minus b squared. So let's go ahead and apply this to a particular example. All right, so what is the factor form of x squared plus 14x plus 49? Okay, so hopefully what you will have recognized is that this format was what we just worked out earlier. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and write this on the side. We said that a plus b times a plus b is equal to a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. Okay, we have a b squared here. This is a perfect squared, and we also have a perfect square here, x squared. Okay, and the middle term over here is going to be twice a times b. Well, my a here is 1, and my b here is 7. Okay, so let's go ahead and write that down. My a here is going to be 1x, in this case just x, and my b here is going to be 7. Okay, how did I get that? I took the square root of x squared, and I got x, and then I took the square root of 49, and I got 7 for b. So now that I know my a and my b, we can go ahead and factor, or put this in factored form, and this is going to be x plus 7 times x plus 7, okay, which is in this format here. Or you can also write this as x plus 7 quantity squared. Okay, let's take a look at another example. So here's the question. What is the factor form of 9x squared minus 30x plus 25? And if you recall, a minus b times a minus b is in this format, and this format matches this particular format. Okay, so let's go ahead and identify our a. My a is going to be the square root of this quantity, and the square root of that is going to be 3x. And my b is going to be the square root of this quantity, which is 5. Okay, so now we're going to put this in factor form, and this will be 3x minus 5 times 3x minus 5. or 3x minus 5 quantity squared. Okay, so here are a couple of examples for you to try out. So take some time and see if you can figure this out. Okay, here's another example where we are factoring a difference of 2 squared. Okay, now before we do that, I want to show you what happens when we multiply this out. Okay, so using the FOIL method, again, we're going to multiply the first term. So that's going to be a squared. Then we're going to multiply the outer terms. So a times b is going to be a positive ab. Then we're going to multiply the inner terms. Negative b times a is negative ab. And then multiplying the last terms, a negative b times a positive b gives me a negative b squared. Okay. Then what we're going to do is combine like terms. And when we do that, what we get is a squared minus b squared. Notice that the middle terms cancel out. Okay, so this is what we call a difference of 2 squares. This is one square, here's another square, and it's the difference of the two. This is one of my favorites because when you have a difference of 2 squares, it easily factors out to a minus b times a plus b. This is one of the simplest ones to remember. All right, so let's take a look at a particular example. So what is the factor form of x squared minus 9? Okay, here's a square, here's another square, and it's a difference of 2 squares. Okay, so just as a reminder, the factor form of the difference of 2 squares is going to be a plus b times a minus b. Okay, and that's equal to a squared minus b squared. So this is the format that we have. So let's go ahead and identify my a. My a is just going to be the square root of x squared, which is x, and then the square root of 9, which is going to be 3. So now that I know my a and my b, I can automatically put this in factored form. So this is going to be x plus 3 times x minus 3. So that is the factored form of x squared minus 9. So let's take a look at another example. What is the factor form of 4x squared minus 81? You'll notice that this is a square, perfect square. This is another perfect square, and this is the difference of 2 squares. Okay, difference of squares. So let's go ahead and identify our a. Our a is going to be the square root of this quantity, which is going to be 2x, and then my b is going to be the square root of 81, which is 9. So then my factor form will be 2x plus 9 times 2x minus 9. All right, so why don't you take a moment and see if you can factor these on your own. All right, so here's a third example where we need to determine the factor form of 3x cubed y minus 12xy cubed. Okay, so in this particular example, this doesn't fit any of the patterns that we've learned so far. However, if we factor out the greatest common factor, it might be a little clearer. So let's go ahead and do that first. So 3 we can factor out of this quantity, and we can also factor 3 out of 12 because 12 is 3 times 4. We have an x here, we have an x here, okay, so we can factor that out, and we have a y here, and we have a y here, we can factor that out. So if we factor out 3xy, then what we're left with is x squared minus 4y squared. Okay, now this becomes a little bit more obvious because we have a difference of squares. Difference of squares, just like the previous example that we worked on. So let's go ahead and identify our a. In this case, it's going to be the square root of x squared, which is x, that's my a, And then my b is going to be the square root of 4y squared, which is 2y. So then our factored form is going to be, and let's not forget our 3xy, factor form is going to be x plus 2y times x minus 2y. Okay? All right. So here are a couple of examples. Why don't you take a moment and see if you can factor those out. All right. So hopefully this lesson made sense to you. Those are the 3 different special cases that I wanted to cover. If any of this was not clear, please go back to the beginning of the recording and listen to it again. Thank you.